All right. Good morning and welcome to my session. I'm Hailey Thomas, and today we're going to be talking about first generation entrepreneurship. First of all, I'm really glad that you are at this conference and you've taken the time out of your schedule to really develop yourself as a VA, not only in your craft, but also in the skill that you need. Business ownership, right? This is a really big deal. So I'm glad you're here. I'm going to give you a brief introduction of me and then this topic of first generation entrepreneurship. So, as I mentioned, my name is Hailey Thomas. I am a business and mindset coach, and I talk with first generation entrepreneurs. I help them get really clear about what this journey of entrepreneurship is going to be like for them and help them to have a profitable business. So, just setting up the simple logistics of business that make it scalable and profitable, but also allows them to enjoy the business ownership experience. So, not overworking, not overdoing it, but still being able to build this business that allows them to be an entrepreneur and set a really powerful financial legacy for themselves. I am from Central Illinois. I have a husband and a son. That's us there in Scotland. We, pre-COVID times, really like to travel. I have spoken at TEDx and loads of other events. I really enjoy business just as a whole. So, in addition to my coaching practice, I also have built two online businesses. One is called Podcast Assist, and one is called Project Management for Virtual Assistants. Were digital courses that I created, one of which I sold and one of which I still co-own, in addition to my coaching practice. And I say all of this to say is that I started my business as a virtual assistant. So before the speaking, before Podcast Assist and Project Management for Virtual Assistant, the courses were live, I was a VA. I started my business because initially I needed $800 to close the gap between expenses that we had and what my husband's job was. So I kind of got to work to figure out that, how to close that $800 gap. And then eventually really figured out what parts of virtual assisting that I really liked and offered that to clients. I had a couple of executive clients I was an executive assistant for. Then I had a small team. There was three of us, and each of my subcontractors had clients of themselves. So I had a small agency before I transitioned into coaching. And so that's me working from home with my dog. So my practice has been fairly small. I work from home. I have a family, and I'm saying all this to say is that I'm not special. The success that I've had in my career as an online entrepreneur and the evolution my career has taken is not because I'm like special or this like magical unicorn. It's just because of the practices I've developed and I've been taught and I've learned around first generation entrepreneurship, around how to be a successful entrepreneur, how to have a career as an entrepreneur and not just focus on exactly where I am right now. So that's a little bit what we're going to be talking about today. So the point of discussing entrepreneurial mindset at all, or the way we're going to talk about it today, is so that you know where you are right now. So it's kind of like having a map, right? It's knowing, okay, of my growth in my CEO mindset skills of my growth, this is where I am. This is what I need to develop. This is what I've already overcome. So it's really helpful to have this as a map, and you can learn from entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs around you, and mentors and coaches where other entrepreneurs have struggled before you and how you might want to traverse that bit of the map, the bit of that journey. So it's also kind of a how-to guide. I think when you are intentional about thinking about entrepreneurship, you get to see how your brain makes decisions, and you get to see where it kind of makes decisions that are kind of just rote, like repetitive decisions, and where it makes decisions where it's useful and like, oh, it's actually allowing thriving here. So it allows you to see how your brain makes decisions. And then these skills, when you develop your entrepreneurial mindset, these skills, it's kind of a multi-purpose tool for your journey. And by that, I mean, when you're able to make decisions effectively in your business, guess what? You can also make big decisions effectively in your personal life. And you also get to make big decisions effectively when it comes to your kids and your schooling, with relationships inside your marriage, decisions about your family and with your family. So this whole journey, like you're going to be an entrepreneur probably for most of your life, if not your entire life. This is going to equip you with the skills you need to make powerful decisions, not just in your business, but also across the board in your life. Okay, so in my practice, I talk about, in the context of entrepreneurial mindset, something called a struggle script. So a script, I guess, let me back up. A script is a piece of code, typically, that the core processing unit of your computer, it doesn't really have to run it. A script will just tell your computer how to run a thing without getting like the whole processor involved. So I'm using a Mac right now, and along the bottom, I can see all these little like apps and things. So one of the core pieces is like the calculator, right? The calculator is its own little piece of code. It's a script that's been written that doesn't have to get like the whole system of the computer involved, because it just is this little script that runs on its own. Our brains are very complex computers, basically, and we run these scripts all of the time. They are learned scripts that our brain processes information through without having to get like our whole consciousness involved to run a script. So if you've ever driven home from the store and halfway through the drive, you're just like, oh, where am I? How did I get this far? Did I run any red lights? And you realize you've zoned out a little bit. It's because you have a script. So the rest of your brain can be thinking about whatever else, while a piece of your brain is still allowing you to drive your car safely without even really having to think about it. So our brains have these scripts that we have learned that can help us, like getting home safely from the store without thinking too hard about it. But we also have some scripts that can really hurt us, that can really harm us, or at least, keep us very small. And the thing about scripts is that the brain's intention is to save power, to save energy, right? To save processing power. And its goal is to like keep you safe and keep things predictable, which is not very useful when you are an entrepreneur who's trying to grow a business. So you are either a new VA who wants to create some consistency in their practice, whatever your identity was before you were a VA is the primary identity, unless you are thoughtful about the struggle scripts that your brain is processing information through. Your previous identity is how your brain is going to process new information or new ideas, or even go towards this idea of consistency. If you're a seasoned virtual assistant who's trying to grow and expand their business, you are also up against your previous identity of a new VA that you're contending with. Your brain is trying to run all the new things you're trying to do through this old script. Okay, so the brain is trying to create predictability, but predictability is not very useful for entrepreneurship, in that by definition, when you're doing a new thing, it's not predictable yet because it's new, right? So the brain rallies pretty hard against this. So this is a problem because it adds another layer of processing. It makes it harder for you to like set large goals and achieve large goals. It keeps you in cycles of like indecision or failure longer. And failure is a part of entrepreneurship. It just is. But if your predominant thought is, I can't actually do this thing, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it. It's going to take you many, many tries to have a launch or build a new service or change your pricing and packaging. Okay. If your predominant thought it's not going to work, this is impossible for me, it'll be too hard. If those are your underlying thoughts that you've brought in from other places, either as a W-2 employee, if you were a stay-at-home parent before now, if you were a new VA and you've gotten some consistency in your business, but you want to continue to grow, you might still carry that title of newness in your brain that makes you feel like you're not an expert and feel immature at what you're doing, which creates kind of that imposter syndrome thing, right? So what we're going to do is talk through the 7 struggle scripts that are most prevalent in my clients that I've seen. And this is from everyone who's making their first $500,000 to everyone who's making their first like $10,000. They are virtual assistants, they are graphic designers, they are copywriters, they are executive assistants. My clients are social media managers across the board. The thing that consistently I've seen that helps women kind of break past where they are and get to where they're going is being able to identify and dismantle these struggle scripts. So the fastest way through to your next goal is by dissolving these unseen barriers. And this not just impacts right now. It will be helpful for right now, but this also impacts your whole career as an entrepreneur, because once you're able to identify each of these scripts we're going to talk about, you're going to be able to see them sooner, notice when they come up in slightly different verbiage, right? And you get to shorten the cycles. So I'm never one, and I always tell my clients this, where this isn't about perfection, and it's not about like rewriting your entire brain at once. This is about you understanding, becoming aware, and then shortening the cycles. Because the truth is, you're a human, and so am I, which means our brains are never not going to freak out about new things. they just will, right? But your goal is to be able to identify that, allow your brain to freak out, kind of like if you have children and your child is having a tantrum, right? You as an adult are able to see that tantrum and go, okay, I'm not going to necessarily respond directly to the fact that they can't get their juice box open. That's not the actual problem. You as an adult can step back and go, okay, it's been a long day. They're tired. They're hungry. They're cranky and frustrated. That's why they're having a tantrum, not because of this juice box. Similarly, when you understand these concepts and can become aware of them and notice when your brain freaks out, or notice when your brain wants to stall and back up and withhold, you can respond to that situation, but you understand that you're responding to it in the larger context of, oh, I get it, brain. You love predictability. I'm adding a layer of unpredictability, and you are not happy, and that's okay. We're still going to go and do this thing. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. That's why we're talking about these struggle scripts. Okay. So struggle scripts 101. So for each of these, I'm just going to tell you about the script, what it sounds like, how you might talk about it, what it might look like in your business, and what the other side of it is. And what I want for you to do as I'm talking through these, is think about places in your life where, oh, I've said that, or I've thought that thing. Okay, look for those places. And then I want you to identify, there's 7 of them total, but I want you to identify 1 or 2 that you directly want to start becoming aware of. I would not suggest you're doing all of these or trying to tackle them all at once. But if you just take 1 or 2, it builds your momentum. It builds your ability to coach yourself and talk to yourself and help yourself through these things by just picking 1 or 2, and you'll be able to kind of attack or work on the other ones as well. So the first one, which is huge for the virtual assistant community, is the difference between over caretaking and over delivering. Over caretaking is when you are working with a client, and let's say you've scoped out a project, or you've scoped out what your work is supposed to be. And this can happen in 2 ways. You've already scoped out the work, and there are a lot of little things that come up, small things. You're like, oh, I can just fix that, or I'll also do this extra thing, or you know what, I said I'll create 5 social media posts for them, but like, here's 6 and here's a template. It's adding stuff, or if you are putting together your pricing and your packaging, and you have a core offering, let's say it is social media management, again, just for example. Over caretaking would be seeing that offer, that package of, I'm going to post for you every day for 20 of the 30 days. and adding, okay, and we're going to have, 2 phone calls, and I'm going to make some templates for you, and I'm going to, um, you know, help you brainstorm your next 3 months worth of content, and I'm going to do a follow-up call with you at the end. It's adding all these things instead of focusing on what over delivering is, which is understanding the value and doubling down on that. Okay. So we over caretake when we don't believe the core of what we're offering is valuable, or when we're just truly not sure why our work is valuable. We'll add a bunch of things thinking that that's what makes it valuable, when in reality there is a piece of what you do that you can learn to over deliver on, like make really impactful. So in the social media instance, instead of making your package more valuable by adding more stuff, I would over deliver and make it more valuable by doing as few things as possible that create results. So my question in that scenario would be, okay, well, what outcome are they trying to get to? And how do we measure that outcome? Is it by, not even the vanity metrics of like likes and comments, but the goal of this business owner is to, um, get this many people to their website every single month. How does their social media impact that? Okay, let me measure the numbers. Like the goal of over delivering is really, what is the value? How do I impact that? And it's typically because we think we either can't really impact it, or we're not sure what it is that gets us into over caretaking, which is overdoing it. Okay. You're, especially as Black women and brown women, especially as women, we've been taught to over caretake, to overdo things. But remember, your clients are paying for your expertise and for you to deliver and over deliver. So very rarely does over caretaking help. You think it's going to increase confidence, but like it never does. Okay. Or at least clients really undersatisfied with loads of stuff, right? Like loads of details. So that's the first struggle script is I have to add more. I have to do more for my work to be valuable. And what I want to offer is you want to focus on over delivering instead of over caretaking. Okay, so the second struggle script is around modeling versus being a beacon. So one of the way this sounds, the thoughts and the way this sounds is, I don't know what I'm doing. I need someone else to tell me what to do. This comes up a lot when it comes to marketing. It comes up everywhere in people's businesses, but this comes out a lot in marketing because we think we're not doing it right. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. So you end up, or you can end up, if you continue with those thoughts, those struggle scripts, right? So if the script is, I don't know what I'm doing, and what you're putting in is, hey, I'm going to market a business now. I'm going to try to market a business now. And your brain's saying you don't know what you're doing. You're going to go and look for someone else's process to follow. The problem with this, though, is that it has you, if you constantly think, I don't know what I'm doing, you're going to keep looking for people's models to follow. And by that, I mean, well, I don't know what I'm doing with Instagram, so I need a plan for that. And I don't know what I'm doing with blog writing, so I need a plan for that. And I don't know what I'm doing with LinkedIn. Should I be doing that? And this person has a YouTube process, and I should probably be doing that too. So you end up just modeling, i.e. trying to be a replica of all the things and people that you see. It keeps you busy. And I'm super not here for being busy in your business for no reason. And two, it doesn't ever allow you to really ground down into your own understanding of how any of these processes work and how to make each of them really effective. So if you're being a model, you're just following, you're trying to be a carbon copy of someone else's plans and processes, versus being a beacon means you might start with someone else's processes or plans or follow them, but you understand as a beacon, I'm the thing that makes this work. I'm going to fail at this a couple times until I figure it out. If it's not working, it's in my responsibility, and I have the agency to figure out how to make it work instead of going to go follow someone else's other thing. Okay. I also think about this a lot particularly with first generation entrepreneurs. The definition of that is that you are a first. You're one of the first in your family to be thriving with a business, making plenty of money, or the first person in your family to have a business of your own at all, there isn't a model for this. And so if the brain's default is running on, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, it's going to be really hard to make decisions. You're going to constantly be looking for validation from other people around you. And they don't know what you're doing because they're not running online businesses as virtual assistants. Okay. Versus being grounded in, okay, I know what I'm doing. I can figure it out. Even if I only know 50% of the answer here, here's my best guess. It's probably about 50%, but I know I can figure out the rest. That's standing on your own 2 feet. That's being a beacon. And you end up becoming a thought leader. People end up looking at you and going, I wonder what she's doing, by virtue, like clients come to you. And again, by you being a beacon versus trying to be a model of someone else's processes, someone else's thoughts, someone else's branding, someone else's marketing tasks. You become a beacon, the shining beacon. Okay. All right. Number 3. This is a big one, again, for women and people of color. This is a concept I called the armor of excellence, meaning we were all conditioned to believe that we have to be excellent at everything. And that started way back in grade school. It started at home. There's an excellent, if you all watch Scandal back in the day, an excellent episode where Olivia Pope's dad came into town. She should be in therapy and that's a whole thing, but came into town and he was kind of berating her for her relationship with the president and, her being sloppy in his book. And the thing they were saying back and forth was like, you have to work twice as hard to have half as much, twice as hard for half as much. And that hit me hard. I think I was like bawling during that episode because I was like, wow, that is how I was raised too. And I'm sure for all of you who again are Black and brown humans, are women, that's the sentiment. You're going to need to work twice as hard. It's going to need to be excellent to get about half as much as everybody else. If you're a W-2 employee and that's your primary identity before virtual assistant or right alongside with your VA business, that's probably your thought too. Okay. The problem with this is that entrepreneurship requires failure. And not just small failure. Entrepreneurship requires like big kind of public, oh crap, I fell on my face failures. You can't avoid it. And actually, if you do avoid it, which is what most people do, we try to avoid that failure because it's been so ingrained in us in this struggle script that we can't fail, that excellence is the only option. Excellence is the protection, like armor against the world. We avoid failure so hard we don't end up actually ever growing our businesses because we're really afraid to fail and to learn, like to sit in the pain and disappointment of failure and then go back and look at what we did to learn from it and then go again. That's so hard. So much like armor, excellence protected us when we needed it to, when we were growing up. In the W-2 environment, if you worked in a very corporate environment, it was armor, it's protection. The problem with armor is that it's very heavy, very hard to move around in. You don't get to be agile. And you need that agility in entrepreneurship. So this struggle script is, one of the drowners of small virtual assistant businesses. Because by trying to be excellent and trying to be very professional and avoiding failing, they don't test enough, they don't fail enough, and that's what ends up sinking their business or keeping it very small. Okay, so you have to understand a couple things, which I know VAs everywhere are probably going to cringe when I say this, but it's the truth. You have to be okay with B- work, being out there. Okay, the amount that you're going to need to produce, the amount of times you're going to need to try, you can't do all those tries at A+ work. It's going to take 1,000 years and it's going to be exhausting. So you need to be okay and being willing to produce B- work. It's fine. Very often our B- work is everybody else's like A- work. Okay. And then secondly, you have to be willing to know when excellence is important and when excellence isn't. You have to be willing to like test that concept out. So when I'm working with my clients, one of the things that we talk about with, them and their clients is your clients hire you because you're brilliant and because you're an expert at what you do. They do not hire you for perfection, because if so, they would have just hired a robot. Human beings are incapable of perfection. They hire you for your presence. And so it's about when you make a mistake because you're a human, how do you want to treat yourself? How do you want to talk to yourself? How do you want to experience that disappointment and potentially shame if you have a really hard time with failure? Okay. So that's the armor of excellence, and that script of you must be excellent, that's a holdover from our W-2 days or growing up, is just not helpful in entrepreneurship, because the reality is you're going to fail because you're human and because this journey requires it. Number 4 is the disregarding of, I said but our humanity. And this kind of goes along with the armor of excellence. So one thing that I think, again, for women of color, especially, we do is we put our humanity, like our physical selves, our mental and emotional selves, last on the list. We keep a really long running list of things to do for our clients, for our business, for our vendors and contractors, for our families, for our church. Everybody goes first. And what we end up doing is disregarding our humanness, our bodies, the physical matter. I was joking with a friend, but I think this is true. We're basically complicated houseplants. Like we live in physical bodies. So we need, we need water and air and light and rest. I think of my plants. I've got tons of plants all over my house. They need all of those things. And they don't need them as it's not as a, if you perform plant, if you grow 2 inches, then I'll give you some water. Like we don't treat our plants or our pets like that. But we do that to ourselves. So we disregard our humanity and we think it's an extra, when in reality, we are the batteries that power our businesses. Battery dies, everything falls apart. And I know that we know that logically, but everything about the way we've been raised and in the W-2 world says that humanity goes last. Some of the most powerful entrepreneurs that I've seen are the most ruthless prioritizers. And not because they're conceited, but it's because they understand this concept. My humanity is actually paramount. It is primary. It is integral to my success over the long term. My humanity is. It's not a nice to have thing. It's not self-care by occasionally getting a pedicure. It's self-care by trusting that me logging off my computer every day at 4 is what's going to make sure my business is powerful and amazing and has longevity to it. It's not in spite of it. It's because I am prioritizing my humanity. Okay. All right. Our last 3. The desire to withhold celebration, kind of along the same lines of disregarding humanity. Very often we'll say things like, well, I have nothing to celebrate. Or I haven't really done anything. Or I'll celebrate when I make my first $50,000. I'll celebrate when I'm at 100K. That's when I'll celebrate. And this script comes from, again, growing up and being raised to be modest and not to be too proud and not to think too highly of ourselves and to be complicit and quiet. But over here in entrepreneurial world, celebration isn't about pumping yourself up. Celebration of yourself and how you handle situations and of the growth that you've had is about integrating this new identity. Celebration is not a nice to have. It's about integration. It's about understanding, 2 months ago, I was making $1,000 a month. And now I'm making $4,000 a month. It's still not the 8K that I want to get to, but I'm celebrating, wow, I've made a lot of progress in this amount of time. And the reason this matters is because if you withhold celebration, first of all, the constant rhythm in your head, the script is I'm not there yet. I haven't done anything yet. I'm not good enough yet. It's that yet piece that is so harmful. And then secondly, you always then feel like you're going from 0 to, let's just say, that 100K mark. Okay. So for example, I think of it like a video game, right? In video games, there are checkpoints. If you played Super Mario Brothers back in the day, you know, like on that map, there's like a world and then you beat that world and then the path lights up and you go to the next world and you beat that world and the path lights up and go to the next one, right? Those are kind of like celebrations along the way, so that when you get to the end of the game, you don't go, oh, I'm going from level 1 to level 37. You know, oh, I'm just going from level 36 to 37. I've learned a bunch. I have the tools and resources I need. It's just 36 to 37. Celebration is similar in our business. It's helping you to understand, I'm going from 1K to 3K. I've done that. And if I can do 1K to 3K, I can do 3K to 5K. And if I can do 3K to 5K, I can do 5K to 8K. And if I can do 8K months, guess what? I have a $100,000 business. But if you don't celebrate, then you're constantly going to be feeling like, I'm going from 1 all the way to 8K. And that's a long journey. There's a lot of steps. I have to learn a lot. I'm still not there yet. I'm still on the path. Okay. So one of the things I see first generation entrepreneurs struggle with, and again, especially women and especially people of color, is withholding celebration from themselves as if it's this like extravagant thing to do. It's not. It's a part of integration, and it is necessary for entrepreneurship. So the thought might be, I'm going to celebrate myself, celebrate how I handled a situation, a decision I made, revenue, dollars created, clients created, sticking to my work times like I said I would. You can celebrate anything, and I would suggest you celebrate everything, because it helps you to build your identity as an entrepreneur. Okay, it's not a nice to have. My favorite, number 6, I'm being sarcastic, it's not my favorite, but DIYing to death. So many, again, first generation entrepreneurs, because we haven't seen what we are trying to build or do modeled, we go, okay, how do I want to follow someone else's model. So let me get a book, let me get a course, let me get a workbook, let me get an opt-in, and I'll just like DIY it. I'll put it together and DIY it. I think there's some value in that, but it tips off the scales when we try to DIY to death. And by that, I mean over DIYing with the assumption that I have to do it this way because I can't afford help. I can't afford to hire, when in reality, it's those investments that actually allow you to stretch and boom your business forward. So the fact that you have to make a certain amount of money to hire on this person challenges you to make that new amount of money, that new level. So it's not just the winning result, the result that I make this much and now I can hire this person so I don't have to DIY all this stuff, is that now I know how to make this much money and I can do that over and over again. That's a skill no one can take from me, instead of the closed off mindset that I have to do it this way because I can't afford whatever. The other thing that I would add is that when we are used to doing everything ourselves, we want to do everything because we know we can do it ourselves. But this also puts us in a position where we have too many pieces moving in our business that are kind of cobbled together because we did them. Then there's many pieces moving in our business that we then have to maintain many pieces. So my first solution to this is just do less, right? Shut things off, close down parts of your business of things you should have. Okay. Make your business really simple. And that way there's less to DIY, and focus on, how do I create the finances I need and the setup that I need so that I'm not DIYing everything and can continue to mature my business. Okay. And the last one, which is a huge one, we were all, not all, many of us were raised to believe that if you work hard, if you put in a lot of hours and work is hard, like work is a challenge for you, that creates money. I know I remember having a conversation with my dad on the phone. He called me probably last fall and said, "Hey, did you see that these celebrities are now worth this many millions and millions of dollars? And they haven't been in a movie in like 15 years." And his generation, especially our parents' generation, absolutely equated working hard, like work being physically challenging and mentally challenging and doing it for a long time and many hours. That's what creates money. But in that conversation with my dad, what I told him and what I have, kind of was thinking through aloud was like, well, these people, these celebrities in question, they haven't been in a movie in a while. I wonder how they made their money. Oh, when they were very popular in the 90s, they had spin-off of books and spin-off of games and a spin-off of like clothing line for their characters that everyone really liked. And that was going. And then they morphed that into writing and producing and then investing in movies and stuff. So they were like getting money as business investors. And then those product lines, like the clothing and the perfume and the games and stuff, that has all just been making money for them and maturing. And that's when it dawned on me, oh, there's a difference between, and not that these people didn't work hard, because all that takes time and money and effort too, but there's a difference between working hard and creating value. And creating value is what creates dollars. I want you to hear this really, really clearly. And this goes back to what we talked about last slide with over caretaking versus over delivering. Creating value creates dollars. Working hard does not necessarily create dollars, because we know people that work real hard that have 2 and 3 jobs that don't have a lot of money. And we know some people who have a lot of money that don't work that hard. These are skills that overlap. Like if you think about a Venn diagram, they overlap for entrepreneurship, but they're not the same. And so it's really important that you break those apart and think really deeply about what creates value for my clients. At some point, and it may be useful to continue to price by the hour, depending on what your offer is. That might be the most valuable thing for you, is to price hourly. But even that hourly rate needs to be anchored by value, not by, how much time you spend on a thing. That price of your hourly rate or your package has to be anchored by, this creates this many more dollars for my clients. So I remember my very first virtual assistant project. I think I charged $5,000 for it, it was like an 8-week project. I was not spending that much time on it, but I talked to my clients and really understood that by working on this project was going to save them. So it was a customer discovery project, and we were trying to help the customers who bought their digital product to be able to use it right away and love it, so that they would stay subscribers. So I found out from that client how much these people pay a month, which was like $12 a month or something for the service. But the clients that really liked it stayed customers. The customers that really liked it stayed customers for years. So that $12 a month really was a couple grand over some years. And so for every person that we got to stick to this product and really enjoy it, and they had, hundreds of customers, even if we only helped 20 people really like it, it's like $50,000, right? Over the years that they were. So I didn't price my value, I didn't price my project by how many hours I was going to be working for them, because that wasn't very many, to be honest, but it was based off of the value. Okay. That is how you start to think about scaling a business without doing more, is what's the value? How do I anchor what I do to make it valuable to this person? And how do I make that value really clear? How do I articulate that value? How do I know if that is the thing that they value most? Like, that's the work that creates dollars, not working hard, as we might have been raised to believe. Okay, so I just gave you a bunch of struggle scripts, and I want you to think of one or two of them that you want to capture, and notice when your brain is offering you the harder of the two options, or the option that keeps you in struggle, that keeps you, spinning your wheels and it being hard. And I'll just say them briefly again: over caretaking versus over delivering, being a model, or actually we'll just back up. So I'll show them to you again. Modeling versus being a beacon, carrying the armor of excellence, disregarding your humanity, withholding celebration, and DIYing to death, and then the difference between working hard and creating value. So what I want you to do is just to take one or two of these, to just choose one or two to continue to think about and to notice when your brain is offering. So like the biggest game changers for me was working hard versus making money, and then over caretaking versus over delivering. And then I also probably say being a beacon versus modeling. So what you want to do is just become aware, right? So my favorite piece for becoming aware is to do what I call a brain dump. And that is exactly what it sounds like. You get a piece of paper, you write down a circumstance in your business. So for instance, let's say you have a revenue goal to make $5,000 in the month of May, or whatever the month it is, but $5,000 this month. I want you to write down every single thought that you have about it. Good, bad, neutral, positive, negative. You have to like allow yourself to write down, I really want this. I'm scared I won't get it. I'm not sure how I'm going to make it happen. It'd be so great to be able to do it though, but I'm not sure. Like let your brain spin out. And so you can start to see in the thoughts that you have about it, which of the struggle scripts your brain might be playing. And then instead of trying to like go straight opposite and be really positive. So let's take the idea of 5K this month. One of the thoughts you might have about it is, that's just not possible for me. Okay. Or I'm going to have to work really hard. Like I'm going to have to work more hours to make that happen. Even that thought, I'm going to have to work more hours to make that happen, that fits under the working hard versus making money struggle script. And instead of trying to be really positive about it and just saying like, I can do it, or like, I don't even know what you would say, but sometimes people want to go straight to the positive of like, I could maybe do it. What you want to do is go neutral first. Meet your brain in the middle, because right now your brain is believing that this thing is an impossibility. So you want to bring your brain to neutral and just say, it's possible for someone to make 5K in a month doing what I do. That's a possibility that's out there. And you want to notice how it feels in your body to go neutral. That wasn't, a wildly positive thought for you, but you want to go neutral and let your body like kind of relax and calm down. And you want to incrementally step it forward. If the, working hard versus making money is one of the struggle scripts you want to work through, that thought of someone or people in general make money doing what I do. There are people out there that make 5K doing what I do. It's possible I could also be a person that makes 5K doing what I do, and start to walk your brain forward. Because when you're in that place of it's possible, then that's what opens you up and allows you to go, okay, if it was possible, how could I do that? What would I have to change to do that? What might that feel like? And your brain may not have answers at first, and that's okay. So that brings us to our next part, which is your job is to practice these new thoughts. Like intentionally write down, it's possible for me to make 5K as a social media manager. It's possible for me to make $10,000 a month as an executive assistant. It's possible, fill in the blank. Okay. So initially your brain is in disbelief. And so just by practicing the thoughts, even if you don't believe them when you say them, again, we want to try to meet your brain at neutral, But even if you don't believe them as you're saying them, practicing them is what's going to allow you to start to integrate them, start to bring them into, okay, the brain's had enough time to chew on it. It might have taken a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months for some thoughts that feel really far. But it's the practicing that allows your brain to start to open up to the possibility, which opens it up to actually then solving that problem. Okay. And then you keep testing. So the question I always ask is, how do I make this decision or these decisions now? Right? Like, based off of who I want to be, how do I make the decision that's directly in front of me? Struggle scripts might be running, but how do I make the decision that's right here in front of me? How do I do that? What are struggle scripts at play? What does thriving look like? And I want you to notice that when you're starting to make this transition, you will feel it in your body, your brain trying to stop you. Right? It's kind of like when you have lots of programs or multiple programs running on your computer, on your laptop, you'll hear the fan like whirring, trying to cool things down. Your brain is going to go to work when you try to go against the struggle scripts. It's going to try to stop you. And by that, it might have you questioning yourself. It might have you get like sweaty or nervous. It might have you feel a little nauseous. But I want you to know that that's not because it's a bad idea or because it's not really possible. Your brain's just processing new information. Okay. We originally had the script that this wasn't possible. And now you're working on making it possible. So your brain's like, what? Okay. So none of those things are going to be unusual. Okay. So what do we do with this information now? If you notice, this is very similar to the slide we started off with, because all these things are the same. So understanding struggle scripts, being a first generation entrepreneur is ongoing. There's some that you're going to bust right through, and there's some that's going to take you some time to work through. And that's okay, because everything you work on is only going to make you a better entrepreneur over the length of your career. So again, now that you have this information, I want you to think about where you are now, what decisions, what desires you have that you've shut yourself off to because the scripts, the struggle scripts that are running have you thinking you just can't. And now that you can see where other entrepreneurs have struggled, where I've struggled, what can you learn? How do you want to move forward on the map? And again, how do you want to see, how do you want to notice, how do you want to experience the decisions your brain is making? What investments do you want to make that you've been holding off on? What investments have you been telling yourself you absolutely need that maybe you don't? Okay. Notice how your brain makes these decisions, and notice if it's notice when they are being directed by struggle scripts. Okay. Again, this is a multi-purpose tool for your journey. And the whole point of this is that you would build on purpose. So being a first generation entrepreneur is hard, but I think it's wildly important to our legacies, to the generations that come after us, to the people that are in our same, generation, but who are in our circles, not just to see us, win and thrive and #bossbabe, but I think it's also wildly important for them to see us build things with purpose. I think a lot of my son, who's 6 now, so he doesn't care about anything, but at some point, he's going to understand the work that I do, and he's going to understand how I think about my work in entrepreneurship. And what I'm hoping is to give him the tools that he would need to build anything he wants ever in his life, even if it is to be an employee, to be really successful and to have a really enjoyable and thriving experience being an employee. I want that for him. So I'm gathering my tools. You're gathering your tools so that we can build the lives and legacies we want with purpose. So thanks for sitting in on this. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm really glad that you're here. If you have questions or want to talk with me more about first generation entrepreneurship, this is where you can find me. I'm at Brainspace Optimized on Instagram, and I'm constantly writing about this stuff there. Or you can shoot me an email. I'm Hailey at brainspaceoptimized.com. Just if you want to discuss this and learn more about what I do. So enjoy the rest of your conference. I will see you all next time.